How does a company doing an IPO within 3 years of investment affect EIS?
That's fine if it IPOs, and in fact an AIM IPO is still treated unquoted for tax purposes anyway, as long as there's no arrangements at the time to IPO, at the time of investment, that would be fine.
Could you explain a bit about SEIS and any changes to that?
CDIS and CDIS changes was the question. The investee company rules are broadly the same as EIS, so some of the tightening will apply to CDIS as well. CDIS has slightly less stringent requirements in terms of some of the EU state aid rules, because it's de minimis state aid, and therefore there's less around the growth and development requirements and so on. But the reliefs remain the same for CDIS, so it's still a 50% income tax relief and still a 3-year holding period.
I think you touched on this, but is there a formal definition of a knowledge-intensive company?
There is a definition of a knowledge-intensive company. It's quite long-winded and painful to go through. I'm about to do a flyer actually with a flow chart, because that's the easiest way to look at it. But broadly, it's those doing significant R&D and IP development, or companies with a large number of employees that have got an MA or above degree. So, but you're not allowed to just have PhD students or PhD graduates, I should say, making coffee and doing filing. They have to be doing a job relevant to the qualification as well. So they've already thought about that one.
Just a quick one. So with Brexit, is there any sort of forewarning about how that would affect state aid rules? And I'm assuming that then there would be no oversight from them, and
well,
we'd have to manage that internally, or?
Yeah, it's a good question about Brexit. Obviously, we don't know what Brexit will look like still. I mean, on the one hand, you would think that if we're not part of Europe, we wouldn't have to abide by the state aid rules. But obviously, if we want to be part of the same market, I suspect they will still apply some kind of state aid rules. Otherwise, it'd be unfair if UK businesses had state aid and could therefore compete and give a disadvantage to Europe. So even though I think distancing ourselves from Europe should mean less oversight in terms of state aid, I'd be surprised if it goes completely, just because we obviously still want to trade heavily with Europe. So.
More questions from online?
Yes. Just one more. Do you expect any further changes to EIS rules?
I think the changes that might come next are the ones that were hinted at in the patient capital review. So I'm hoping that we might actually get a relaxation of the limit. So the 7-year age limit, and also the maximum lifetime limit of 12 million or 20 million. It does sound as though they're going to look at that. The problem with increasing those is they were due to EU state aid, and so I think there will have to be some negotiations with the EU if that were to happen. And it may well be that having a higher limit, but with, as we've mentioned before, a lower rate of tax relief might well be a compromise that could be made. So I'm hoping it's going to be, provided these rules work to stop the safe investments and the low risk investments. I think what HMRC have said is that I think 62% of their inspectors' time is spent dealing with these low risk investments, and it's just eating up a lot of their time. A lot of the tax relief is being paid out to so-called low risk, and they've just had enough of it really, and they want to reset the rules so that it's focused in the right area.
Just in terms of macro level, because it's a really popular scheme, how big is the scheme the UK pays in terms of like £1 billion every year EIS, and how it compares to pension and pension relief?
Yeah, it's much less than pension relief. I can't remember what the latest figures are, but the HMRC do publish the amount of relief given, so they are very alert to it. I don't know off the top of my head, I'm afraid, but it is a lot less than pension relief, so hopefully they will still remain for longer.
Sorry, yes. Just going to ask you, with the changing Brexit, do the UK trading rules going to change dramatically? Because I think you trade in Europe at one
Yeah, so just asking there about Brexit and the change to the trading rules. So the old rules actually used to be that the trade had to be wholly or mainly in the UK of the group. And then because of EU intervention, the rules were actually relaxed so that now the trade can be anywhere, even outside of Europe, provided the company issuing the shares, the topco, has a UK permanent establishment. So you can have a UK holding company with 3 people that's got a tax presence for those 3 people, and the rest of the group can be in Africa or Australia or anywhere else, and it qualifies, which seems unreasonably generous in some ways because if you look at it from a UK taxpayer's perspective, it's potentially creating jobs in other parts of the world. So it's actually very generous as it is. So it may well be that rule tightens if we left Europe.